that's true. Naked Palpatine.
Oh, you pick that one. Fresh out of the clone tank, nude Palpatine is my
Well, that's the first thing I think of when you say Dark Empire Palpatine.
Hello everybody. I've now finished the Bonehunters, the 6th book in Malazan, Book of the Fallen, or 6th novel, I suppose. I enjoyed it a lot. I don't know if it's my favorite. So far it's been 5, 3, 6 might be next. I'm not positive about that. But I did finish it, so before I get into spoilers, I'll just get my non-spoiler on the second half. This is assuming you've read the first 2 books in the series, but I won't talk about the spoiler stuff yet. But as a whole, again, this feels like another sort of setup piece mainly, kind of like 4 was, but I think handled better because 4 felt kind of choppy in a sense of oh, I really feel like this is setting up things, but it's not actually giving me much oomph in this one. That's subjective. I don't know what I'm saying, but it just didn't feel that. It felt like it was setting things up and not really delivering on what it was currently talking about. I don't know if that makes sense. Anyway, this is the death of the bridge burners, completely and utterly. I don't mean dead as in they die. I mean as in we've been following a lot of bridge burner characters since book 1, but even by book 1 it was kind of the end of the bridge burners. And then, in Deadhouse Case we got introduced to the 14th, and then they were again in it in the 4th book. But now it's done. So is the 14th. This is the birth of the Bonehunters, which will really carry the second half of the series, or so I hear. So that's basically what this is about. The other big thing is, throughout this whole series, gods have been playing their own game, sowing their own decisions, their own war, behind the scenes, very subtly, very in the background. But here we begin to see that it is not in the background anymore. That it's in your face, it's in the front of you. It may not be, like Revelations level from the Bible where it's like literal gods, or like literal things coming from the heavens, but it is a lot of manipulating, a lot of actively being involved in the modern, current, mundane conflict. This person, they worship this thing, but it's actually that they worship the cripple god, or this person thinks that they're working for this person, but they're actually working for this god, or this and that and that and that and that. And that's the big thing that you start to notice with this book. And then the other thing is that as for the main sort of thrust of the conflict, at least what is presented directly in front of us, is more political, which was actually interesting because Steven Erikson seems, for the life of me, to avoid politics. Seems like that may be more of an Esselmont thing. But, we always deal with the military and philosophy and morality and this and that. And we get little things that, Midnight Tides had a bunch of politics going on between the tribes. But in terms of the Malazan Empire, we haven't got much. But here at the end, we really see, a lot of things, and understand a lot of things a little bit better as to what's going on with the economic system, or, the politics of it all, and the decisions why certain things are being done, and the responses to that. So, we get to see Lucine again. I don't think that's too big of a spoiler, because I think she shows up in the first half. But she's back, and we haven't seen her since book 2, so there is that. But overall, I don't know if this is my favorite by any means, but I did really enjoy it. There's not a single Malazan novel that I've hated. I just don't think this one necessarily stands out to me as much as others. And then, of course, it seems like Karsa Orlong sections in this book were just a massive wait till the next one in order to get me super excited for what may happen. Um, Considering that Midnight Tides is my personal favorite book that Steven Erikson has written so far. So when you got teasing me that Cars Orlong's going to be dealing with some of those events, it makes me very, very excited. Um, but yeah, thank you, Steven Erikson. This series continues to be phenomenal, and I'm so sad that more people don't talk about it. I know it's like very famous among like fantasy reader fans, but you know, if it wasn't for good friends who recommended this series, like I would have never heard about it. And so I'm really glad that um, I'm alive in a stage where I can actually read this. Like I genuinely have gotten anxiety about like going to work. I'm like, what if I get by a car and I don't get to finish Malazan? Like, I need to finish that before I die, you know? And because I mean, like, damn, I mean, when Deadhouse Gates came out, I still wasn't even born. That came out in 2000. For context, I was born in 2001, so um, but yeah, so really enjoying it and definitely recommend it. I'm gonna get into spoilers now if you don't want that. Skedaddle. Alright, so Book 3 Shadow of King. Um, so I think we already kind of knew this, but it kind of gives, kind of goes over the fact that, you know, we keep hearing about Ikram and these, like wholesale slaughter things he used to do. And the thing is that Ikram was very close with his father. And one day his father went missing. So Ikram basically went on a giant taken Liam Neeson, rampage trying to find his father, killing many people in order to find him. Only to find out that his father had willingly and actively abandoned him to become, in charge of in Azath House, basically. And that revelation kind of shattered him a little bit. And man, I love Ikram so much. Ikram's great. Also, the cult of the Nameless One, as we've been hearing in this book, some of them at least, I don't know if it's all of them, but they worship Ikram's rage specifically. We have Perrin posing as Captain Kindly. That was a big funny section. Perrin's just playing 4D chess in this book. Like he's doing a whole bunch of things that at first like didn't make sense, but like then I kind of understood it. But recently, before this video came out, I did a live stream with Quinlan Voss, who's going through Malazan as well. He just read Guards of the Moon. And we're talking about Perrin, I'm keeping my mouth shut, but like, when you really think about it, what this man has been through from I want to be a soldier to where he ends up in this book, like it's just crazy. We also learn about Dun Sparrow, which is Whiskey Jack's little sister. She's around, so that's interesting. I'm sure we'll get more about that in future books. Chapter 14 has an interesting opening header, which talks about if there's no afterlife, like what's the point? And I thought that was interesting because basically Steven's arguing, why things matter, despite there maybe not being an afterlife. And that people can get so consumed by the idea of an afterlife that they don't live their life now. And I could see the sides to that, but at the same time, I just think, like, fundamentally, like, if there's nothing after this, sure, do whatever you want. Have a good time, make yourself, enjoy it. It's the one life you got. But, no matter how you slice it, you have to lie to yourself. Because objectively speaking, if there is nothing else after, then nothing truly matters. And that is just the way it is. You could save 50,000 people, but at the end of the day, if the whole world is going to go into a heat death and die one day, then nothing you do will ever be remembered, and it won't truly matter. Sure, you saved 50,000 people in the short term. In the long term, the world's still going to end. So, like, you know, and that will matter to the 50,000 people. Absolutely. You should definitely do that if you have the chance, I guess, you know. But people ascribe meaning in order to not get into despair, you know. Like, if I were to be an atheist, which I'm not getting religious or anything, but like, yeah, I would lie to myself because that's the only way you could live. You know, it's a contradiction of thought. You know, it's like, you know, everything I do is meaning, and this is right and this is wrong, even though there's no way to actually determine that except for what other people say. Because as this series has brilliantly shown, you can have really good people on one side of the thing and really good people on this side of the thing, and, you know, nobody's like truly wrong, right? But if you want to argue that somebody's like evil or wrong, you need some standards as by which to measure such things. Otherwise, it's tomato tomato, and how dare you tell somebody else that they're wrong? You know. So, but I thought it was a really interesting little header to make you think. But also, I've already looked into philosophy. I've also listened to religious debates, so it wasn't like this big mind-shattering thing to me either. So, but it was still cool. Sorry, 6 a.m. I need my coffee. Um, oh, and a big revelation, because I kind of thought it was weird back during Memories of Ice that Whiskey Jack, he, you know, we have all these, this is a universe with magic, and he didn't bother to heal his leg. Like it's sort of the same thing of like, you didn't use Bacta in Star Wars to heal your whatever. Like, it exists, why didn't you use it? But we learn that it was Hood's interference specifically that stopped it out of spite. He made sure that Whiskey Jack didn't get a chance to check on his leg, so at a critical moment, his leg would give in and he would die. So that fixes something that was a bit of a nagging little problem in the back of my head, and also just a really cool thing for Hood's character to know about. Karsa's talking to Samar Dev, and they're just having this genuine conversation. And Steven Erickson's so good at these little tiny moments of characterization that I love so much. But Karsa says that one day I shall return to my father and tell him he was right, and then I shall go to my grandfather and not say anything. Paraphrasing, but it is crazy how I went from being absolutely horrified and kind of disgusted by Karsa to absolutely loving his character now. It's just brilliantly done. This is also where we get the most, probably like more than anywhere else, the like, Karsa is Conan the Barbarian stand in for my series ever, where he talks about the evils of civilization with Samar, which again was really interesting and way more nuanced than I think Robert E. Howard tried to make it. Because there's definitely problems with civilization. You know, at the same time, Karza you used to like rape and butcher kids, so like, you know, but he's learned from that. He's a better boy now. We love him now. It's okay. Also, we get a major Mappo flashback to before he was with Ikram, and that was really cool, where he's like fighting this war with other Trell. That was just awesome. Um, there's also this really devastating little scene, because again, we're back on Seven Cities, so we got like this plague going on, and we see this little chapter, little section, with this boy who only has dogs to like comfort him because everyone in his village or whatever died because he had the plague, but he survived, and it was rough. Oh, then we got Toravel, Tora Havel Delat, who's Quickben's sister and is tracking Quickben down. Stuff goes down in the book, and Quickben promises to owe Shadow Throne. Calum, And Quickben are talking, and Calum, asks like, "Do we trust Devor?" Or they ask, or Quickben asks Perrin, because they meet up for a second, and Perrin says, "Devor will do what needs to be done." And then also, major, big, 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 big thing that they just tease here, which is clearly going to be the big plot point of the next novel, which is that Karsa fights a bunch of Tisti Eater, and then they say something about how you can't kill or fight our emperor, and so he says, "I'll take that challenge. I will fight and kill your emperor." So what is this all setting up? The fact that Karsa Orlong is going to go up against Rulad. Who's Rulad? Oh, well, he's the emperor of the Tisti Eater, which we learned about in the previous book. So that was really cool, and I'm excited. I'm excited for that. Um, and then we jump on to book 4, The Bonehunters. And we go back to Veed and Ikram, and Veed also wants to use Ikram to kill Rulad. So that's interesting. We'll see how that pans out in the next book. Um, Also, this is where we finally get to catch up with Troll and Onrak, which I really loved. Now, I already liked Troll and Onrak in book 4, but then I got the entire backstory story in book 5, and I adore Troll now. Love him, my poor sad guy, understandably so. And then we come back to them here, and it's like returning to old friends, even more so than when I first was introduced to them. So it was really good to see them. They're not like a huge part of this particular story, but they are here. Um, we also get to see Feather Witch again, which was cool. Do you guys remember Squint from Deadhouse Gates? Squint was the one who killed Coltane in order to save him from suffering as he was being crucified. Just in case you didn't remember. But Squint has this great little discussion with Apsalar as he notices that she is still in love with someone, with Crocus/Cutter. And he says, you gotta, basically, like, you should still pursue that, because he has to live with the weight of killing a man that he highly admired, but he also wanted to end his suffering. So it's a nice little conversation, and I just appreciate it a lot. So I wanted to highlight it here. Troll and Onrock are talking, and I had chills, but the Talana Mass, they kind of just do as they're told, and when they fight, it's like it's just nonchalant, like it doesn't matter. But Onrak promises that when he fights for Troll, it will be out of anger for his friend. It's still so cool. I love their friendship. We also meet Spite, who's hanging out with Mappo and Niskero Pust and his wife. Spite is his sister to Envy, who we haven't seen since Memories of Ice. So interesting. So Hiboric died, right? But there's this big crazy thing happening with like rocks falling from the sky. As I said, this is getting more to the thing of, oh yeah, the gods are actually fighting. But it was a huge scene. Really quick though. And Hiboric, from like beyond the grave, helps save like a bunch of people. So kind of cool. Still don't know if I like his character. Also, Fiddler's doing his whole like little deck of cards reading thing, which he literally only did once before, I think, in Gardens of the Moon, but he's doing it again. And we get a new card, the Knight of Shadow, which is some being with a spear with gray skin. Well, who do we know that's gray? Well, that's most likely the Tisti Eater. Now, who do we know as a prominent character who really likes to use a spear? Troll Sangar. So, interesting to see where that might go. Okay, so this is kind of the big crescendo of the end of the book. So they make it to Malaz City, which was featured in Night of Knives. It's not the capital. It is a big part of the Malazan Empire, but it's not the capital. The capital is, what is it, Unta or something? I forget. But anyway, they're in Malaz City. This is kind of where the big ending conflict is all happening here. And this is what I mean by, like, this is a very political driven plot. This is also setting up, like, major big things, come to the forefront, but the overall story gist of this one is just that the Bonehunters are forming, and the 14th is dying along with the bridge burners. But the thing with this is that the big thing that sets off this conflict in the end game is that Lacine wants to kill the rest of the Wiccans because they've their usefulness has come to an end. An uprising is starting to form in the city itself, and um, the whole conflict of books 2 and 4, the modern day conflict at least, I know Carso was, a whole thing, has been so economically draining on the Malazan Empire resources that they just don't want to deal with it anymore. They just want it wiped out, done. So it's a big political like play here. We also got Malik Rel and Corbo something, that guy, and they're both there, and they're like advisors to Lacine, and Lacine wants Tavor to come back as like an advisor and stay with her. And this is the first scene ever where I fully got to see Tavor, another Perrin, get to do their thing. And this first time was like, yeah, you know what? I trust you. It was in this moment because, Tavor knows better than to run her mouth like in front of the Empress. But you can kind of see, like, if you pay attention to subtext, you want me to butcher all these Wiccans just because they're inconvenient? I no, no. And so it's an amazing courtroom scene, and we always love a good little courtroom political little scene in our shows and movies and books. But it was really good. And then afterwards, her, Quick Ben, Caleb, they talk about like what to do and all that stuff. But first time, because Tavor's hidden so close to the chest most time, we don't get to really get in her head, and I believe that's going to be true up until like book 8. I'm not, but still, we get enough here where I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I do trust you, Tavor. I trust you. I didn't know how to feel about you before, but I'm with you. So we get that. So that was really really good scene. But again, I guess part of the thing is such big things have been going on in this series so far. I mean, hell, the third book still has like the biggest finale ever. It feels like a end of the series type of event, and everything since has felt a little bit like less of that. I think Midnight Tides kind of boosted it up by having Rulad be, kind of possessed by the crippled god. But it's like it's mostly, I mean, yeah, there's bigger things going on all around, but the main gist of the plight here is just politics, and just like that feels like such a mundane thing, like that should have been earlier. But also just help me understand the world building a little bit better. But we have it now, so it's something. Um, Caleb's also tempted because Lacine says like, "Oh yeah, you can be head of the claws. Go for it. Just go do it." And he's like, "Man, if I become head of the claws, I can get rid of these 2 guys in the room that we hate." And Lacine knows that. She's offering me that. But then they still have to go through with the Wiccan thing. So it was a good scene for him. Also, all of this, there's like the twins in the background as there's like dice being rolled. It's probably the most D&D thing ever. Or the twins of open, or they're being the deciders of chance. Like some people, maybe they're supposed to die, but they roll the dice so they live. Or some people are supposed to live, but they roll the dice so they die. And that's all happening in the background, of course. So I haven't talked much about Pearl because I haven't had much to say about Pearl. Pearl's this dude. He's funny, I guess. He has those moments. And he's a lover to Lostara Yill. And that's kind of it. He was kind of funny, loved her wholly and utterly. Okay. But I didn't have anything of note to really say about him, so I didn't talk about him when he first got introduced in, like, what, book 4? Or whenever he got introduced. I just didn't have anything. I didn't have anything to say. Like, I had nothing. But here, out of nowhere, they make him super interesting. You know, where he's like super arrogant, or not, maybe arrogant's the wrong word, but he's super sure of himself and what he can accomplish. And he thinks he has to trust himself. He knows what to do better than anyone else can do. And so there's just it sucks because he is under this impression that, like, I need to be in charge of the claw, and as long as Calum's alive, I can't do that. And so he attempts to kill him, and consequence of that action is that he gets murdered. And yeah, I mean, he kind of had it coming. I don't exactly feel sorry for him, but they just made him super interesting and intriguing at the very last second, before he goes out. Which, I mean, I guess take him out on a high note, but just want to give some kudos to him in this story because I don't really have anything else to say about him before. But maybe in hindsight now that I know that, maybe I'll care a little bit more next time I see him. Well, on a reread, I mean. Ikram kind of figures out that Veed is just giving him a load of bull, and that was a really good scene. But Ikram still gets angry, and so the rage and the things that he can do start happening. And tis to Eater try to kill him, and he butchers them like paper, like paste, like it's nothing. And then he fights Onrak for a second, and even that doesn't matter because Onrak can't not beat Ikram, and so that's a huge thing. And he starts attacking Troll, and I was so afraid for Troll. I had no idea. I was like, I hope not. I hope not. He's already been through so much. Please don't kill Troll. And luckily he didn't. Ikram eventually is calmed down. He's taken away, and he forgets things, and as happens with Ikram. But that's the end of that. And yeah, I mean, some resolutions there, but basically, that's the big ending to the story. And Lucine probably feels a little betrayed right now. Um, and then we still have Wiccans alive, and the Bonehunters have been created. We also got Hood doing his own thing along with Cotillion, and other gods and whatnot. We still haven't actually seen the Cripple God speak since Midnight Tide, so I don't know what's going on with him, but we'll see, I guess. And yeah, like I said, really, really, really fun, and I'm excited to read Reaper's Gale. But wait, we must take a break because first I have a short story, little novella, focusing on two necromancers, which we so love, because this story should have taken place either before or after The Blood That Follows. So we'll talk about that. Then I have the second Asselmont book for me to read, which is Return of the Crimson Guard, which will probably just be one video because it's only 700 pages. But alas, that will be the next two videos, and then we will return to Malazan, Book of the Fallen, with novel 7, Reaper's Gale. Till then. Oh, I forgot to mention, Fiddler doing his beautiful music in honor of the dead that have fallen and the ones that still live as the bridge burners die and the bone hunters rise. And it's very beautiful. So, you know what? Just imagine that Fiddler's playing you a tune as I end the video. And remember those that have fallen in this series. And maybe even people in real life. I don't know. And remember, as always, to have empathy for your fellow man. Even if some of them seem like they don't deserve it. I mean, some of them really don't deserve it, but most of the time, if somebody in your inner circle, then they could probably use a little forgiveness. But yeah, till next time, I'll see you around.